So, my friends, my fans, and my fellow co-workers have all been trying to get me to play Dragonstar Varnir, and they've been wondering why I haven't. And the thing is that I'm going to explain 3 different aspects to it to explain to you. And all of them are involved around promotion. See, the first step is the general recognition of things like CGs. Then the other is video promotion material. And then the third, and the most important part of this discussion, is character design. Now, from what I have seen of the images, they've done a fantastic amount of work on detail and design for the monsters. Amazing work. I look, even by looking at the monsters that they can fight against, each of them just look incredible. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the character design. It's messy, jumbled garbage. Like, there's one girl who looks like she's some sort of Mega Miracle Force mix between Aaron and Tiara from Fairy Fencer F Advent Dark Force. There's one that looks like she's just a straight out ripoff of Death and Request. And then there's one who's like a bob cut haired version of Tiara, almost down to the precise design, which annoys the crap out of me. Her name is Manessa. And then there's the main character who looks like crap. And that's the thing. There's only 2. The thing is I'm using way too much in the sentence, so keep that in mind that I'm well aware of that. But the problem is this, and these discussion videos are less scripted than previous. The problem is pretty simple. It's way too over-designed even for Compile Heart. Yes, Compile Heart is notoriously over-designed. That's part of the reason why I like them. But there's just, for some reason, the designer for this series just really overdid the character design. There's a ratio of which is considered healthy and reasonable. And it just seems to me like the reason why it's unhealthy and unreasonable is even with some of the character renders are just plain gaudy. If you look at some of the sprite designs and the costume designs and look at it with the composite of the face designs, it's just, you can barely see what their face looks like. And this is a game made by Compile Heart, so most of the time you're stuck with just still images with maybe some fade transitions. And the fact of the matter is that the more you over-design, the less you actually see overall, because your eyes don't look all in different directions all at once. The more you'll, with Tiara from Fairy Fencer, she's a good example of a good balance of character design. She's not too over-designed and she's not under-designed. But when I look at Manessa or whatever the fucking sexual lesbian cross is between Aaron and Tiara, which honestly in theory sounds really fucking hot, but that's beside the point. It's getting to a point where you start to realize that some characters just look more attractive with less. For me, on a outset look of it all, the less designed they are, the more I could actually enjoy them. I think Lampnet is a perfect example. That's why I put her as the thumbnail for this video. Because no matter how much you over-design Lampnet, it it's not to an uncontrollable point to where I can't even see her face. Like, with a lot of the still art, and you gotta remember, still art can be a means to determine whether you get a game or not. You can still see the entirety of her face. Like, even the main character is out of control, and he's supposed to be some sort of generic self-insert. Like, this is supposed to be like a self-insert in some sort of weird demented power fantasy. But the fact of the matter is like, the self-insert's supposed to make you want to be with the waifus, and the only waifu that I look like, that I even remotely consider wanting to be with, is Lampinet. Like, even the sexual cross between two of my favorite Compile Heart characters, TR and Aaron from Fairy Fencer, just look fucking awful when combined, and then combining it with, like, the staff and the horns and the flowers. They went way too far with the over-design, and the reason why this is important is character ratio. And the reason why character ratio is important is pretty simple. For me, at least, I don't know about you, but I want to be able to see their face as they deliver lines and emotion. Because when I look at a person's face, and when I want to hear or feel their emotions, I look directly into their eyes, and I hear their voice, and I determine the sincerity, the tone, the context. All of this circles around a basic aspect of personal empathizing and discussion. Like, when you're talking with somebody, the best way to determine their tone and their sincerity and how to figure out a personable character is in the eyes and the face. I mean, sure, there's other body language aspects too, but sometimes the face and the body language kind of contrasts. But, that's kind of a non-issue anyways in a game where you're dealing with still character renders. But when it comes to character design, you have to be able to want to invest yourself in the lives of these waifu characters, and by the end of it all, Compile Heart is notorious for waifu design. That is basically their bread and butter, not their storytelling. But even then, I still have a certain level of expectations for their storytelling. And so it gets on my nerves when they always do terribly designed concepts like Minessa, or I can never remember the name of the girl who looks like a cross between Aaron and Fairy Fencer. But that's beside the point. Like, the more aspects you have working against you, the more you're less likely to be interested. And the reason why the entirety of character design is important aside from all of that, is that it will also factor in, because in every single art piece, the most important part of its visual design is the centerpiece. Even when you look at promotional material with character renders on the side, the thing you look at most is the center or the subject of the piece of art. Like, the backgrounds for Dragonstar Vanir are great. They're great and all. And so are the monster designs. But when you look at a piece of art, the first thing your eyes pay attention to is the subject of the image piece. The reason why I say the flat-out monster designs are beautiful is the fact that they are the subject design, and the level of detail and how well it meshes with the backgrounds are just plain phenomenal. And it's not like all of the designs are bad, because the CGs are pretty nice. Like, looking at one of the showcases for Dragonstar Varnir, you can clearly tell that when the CGs are done, they're done correctly. Because when I look at, like, Tierin, as I'm just gonna call her, Tierin. I'm just gonna call her Tierin, I don't remember her name. I'm just gonna call her Tierin. But that's beside the point. Tierin looks infinitely worse than Lampinet, and I'm sure that if I were to play the game and find the story, I'd probably find Lampenet to be some sort of weird, disgusting, shallow, vapid, clear character or whatever that I have no empathy with. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at some of these images, they don't really clash well. Like, I'm looking at a CG right now, and you're probably not seeing it because, you know, I'm using a still image. But I'm looking at a CG where they're all eating together, and I cannot, for the life of me, appreciate this. Not just because there's too many subject matters in a centerpiece, but because they all have such wildly different designs, I cannot appreciate any single piece of the image based on diminished returns. They often say that less is more, and sometimes that case is true. It's part of why I like Lampenet so much, because even though she's over-designed like the rest of the characters, she's not too over-designed. And generally, Compile Heart understands the ratio. They understand the ratio of character design, which is what makes it so frustrating when I look at Minessa or Tierin, and like, I don't know why I laugh every time I make that statement. But when I look at like a lot of these character designs, I barely get to see anything of the face with the character renders. And I want to be able to invest in the fictional narrative of a suspension of disbelief that these are believable people. And in the end, I cannot say that many of the characters, aside from maybe Lampenet, are really of any worth. If anything, the character designs are so poor that it makes me just appreciate the monster designs far more. Like, well, see, here's the thing. Once in a while, Compile Heart will release games that are just poorly designed. Games such as Mayq, games such as Ark of Alchemist, and I probably pissed off several people by just mentioning those two names alone. But there will always be games they have that are just poorly designed, and for many pieces of it all, they are poorly designed. And it's just amazing to me that a company that's great at and known for their incredibly intrinsic designs to go all the way over to the opposite end of insanity. Because the more I look at all these images, the more I really just don't like them. They look like some sort of, like, I'm looking at this one image where Minessa is in this transformed state, and she just looks like this really disgusting cross between Kurome and like CPU form or hard drive divinity form of Ray Wrights, and it's just like, some of these are just ugly. And ironically enough, Compile Heart's over-designed feature that they're known for actually works better for them in regards to monster design. But I cannot for the life of them enjoy anything that looks horrendously ugly. And like their transformed states look ugly. Like no matter which character I'm looking at, they're so ridiculously gaudy that I cannot appreciate them. Like anime as a whole, as a medium, is supposed to be looked at in a positive lens. Hell, when I'm looking at like a base image of like promotional material that isn't from a fan snapshot, you know, that one centerpiece with the main character on the right and Minessa on the left, that actually looks a lot better than the sprites and cutscenes, let alone the character designs in battle. But that's the problem. And the image I have as the center point is my favorite girl and favorite design. I can almost, like, I would have to look at the story, but I would have to say that my favorite currently is Lampenet because she just looks the least over-designed. And I have watched a couple of gameplays from my friend Kelly Fitzpatrick. Blah. I cannot fucking speak right tonight. But every time Like, no matter what image I look at, I'm more interested at the monsters than the characters, and that is just a shame. Because, again, Compile Heart is a company that bases itself on waifu design. So it just feels like not only is it bad character design ratio, but it's also jumping the goddamn shark. Which is a shame, because some of this looks like an improvement on the generic monster designs of their past, but I cannot get into it because of the way characters are designed. I mean, in all honesty, it would be most ideal if I could just solo as Lampinet the entire time. Like, that's the thing. This game, and like the footage I've seen and the story I've seen, which to me seems kind of a meh story, all of this in general just kind of makes me like a character the less they're designed, and that's not a good sign for a company that prides itself on good character design. So keep in mind, this is not a video that was meant to rip on Dragon Star Varnir for the sake of it. It's just an explanation for anybody of future reference wants to ask me whether I want to play the game or not, and why. And if you want to use this video, this weird rambly video, as another example and reason why as well, feel free. But this is kind of like me just running off of the top of my memory. So, I want you guys to play Compile Heart games of your own decision and volition, but you gotta remember one thing. I can only tell you guys why I personally wouldn't want to experience a story or a design or anything. So you have to honestly, as individuals, choose for yourself whether you want to give this game a shot or not. But I'm going to leave you off with this one perspective, because there's one other game that this game reminds me of that I have not mentioned. And unlike Dragon Star Varnir, it's a game I really enjoy. And that game is Moe Chronicle, or Moe Roll Chronicle. And the reason why is because despite all the characters being over-designed, they portion the ratio out well. And honestly, I can actually enjoy the character designs. And it's got a similar theme to it, albeit a little bit more ecchi on the side of Moe Chronicle. It's like trying to take all the grimdark aspects of Death End Request and mixing up with Moe Chronicle. That's how I understand what I've seen. And then add in some monster elements with the gorgeous designs for the monsters. So, yeah, if you guys want to give this game a shot, that's cool. If you don't want to give it a shot and want to use this as an example why, also cool. But I just want you to have the perspective of why I personally will not. So take it as you will. I don't hate anybody for wanting to give this game a try, and you gotta remember that even if I don't don't like a game, I can still like the company behind a game. And if IFI has proven anything to me as of late, it's that they do care, at least. They do care about their fans. So keep that in mind. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm One Man. I'm gonna just say, like the video if you have not already, subscribe if you are new, click the bell, and select all to be notified of more of my content. And yeah. So thank you all for watching. Oh, and don't forget to follow me on Twitch. I keep forgetting to, plug my other stuff. Twitch and Steam at OneManCast, and PlayStation at Dead4346. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I am One Man. This has been the Rant and Believe video of a lifetime. I'm gonna head out. Have a good one.